Hello, everybody. Please come on in. Welcome to the latest installation of the Brooklyn Rail Wednesday poetry reading series. We've got a fabulous reading for you today, curated by Lauren Russell. And the reading is titled From the Window in My Study. Lauren will be joined by Joanna Fuhrman, Soham Patel, and Cecilia Woloch. I'll introduce Lauren in just a minute, who will then handle the introductions. If you're here for the first time, you might pay attention to the chat as the reading goes along, as there will be information on the various publications and endeavors of all of the readers that'll go up as they're reading, along with some information about the Brooklyn Rail itself. This is the 135th of these weekly Wednesday readings somehow, and the 812th episode of the overall series, the once new social environment. My name's Anselm Berrigan, and I'm the editor of the poetry section, and I work on these readings along with the good folks who are also here, Chloe, Carolyn, and Eleanor. And it's very nice to have you all here. I'm really happy to have Lauren curating this reading. We met a million years ago through the Poetry Project, and she's a terrific poet in person. Lauren Russell is the author of Descent, which was published by Tarpaulin Sky Press in 2020 and winner of the Poetry Society of America's Anna Rabinowitz Award, and also What's Hanging on the Hush from Asada Press in 2017. Her next book, A Window That Can Neither Open Nor Close, Poems, Plots, Chants, is forthcoming from Milkweed Editions in 2024. Her works appeared in the Brooklyn Rail, along with other places, the New York Times Magazine and the Academy of American Poets Poem-a-Day thing. She teaches at Michigan State University, where she also directs the Center for Poetry, and later this year she'll be joining the faculty of the writing seminars at Johns Hopkins. Please welcome Lauren Russell to the Rail Reading Series.
Thanks, Anselm. Thanks for inviting me. This was so fun to curate. And everyone, thanks for coming, and please bear with me. My computer decided today was a great day to stop working, and I'm on my iPad. So far, so good. I'm going to be introducing Joanna, Soham, and Cecilia in that order, and then I'll be reading at the end. So without further ado, Joanna Fuhrman, an assistant teaching professor in creative writing at Rutgers University, is the author of 6 books of poetry, most recently To a New Era, from Hanging Loose Press in 2021. Her next book, Data Mind, a collection of darkly comic prose poems about the internet, is forthcoming from Curbstone, Northwestern University Press in October 2024. Her poems have appeared or are forthcoming on the Slowdown podcast and the Pushcart Prize anthology and Best American Poetry 2023. Videos of her poems can be found on her Vimeo page and in online journals. Last year, after publishing with them since she was a teenager, Fuhrman became a co-editor of Hanging Loose Press. I first met Joanna when I enrolled in her Genres and Games workshop at the Poetry Project in 2003, which was also when I met Anselm, when I was a 20-year-old volunteer there. And through Joanna and her work, I began to see the potential of poetry as community. Joanna is a citizen poet, and her work, at once biting and playful, often employs startling, surreal imagery in searing cultural and political critiques, capturing both the weariness and the ridiculousness of surviving in our late capitalist era, and interrogating the role of the poet in the world. As I wrote in my review of her 2015 collection, The Year of Yellow Butterflies in Boog City, sometimes I don't know if what I'm looking at is a current or imminent reality or its funhouse mirror image. It's my great pleasure to welcome Joanna Fuhrman.
Oh, that was so beautiful. So I'm just going to read prose poems from my book about the internet today. And some of these I haven't read before. So, I mean, I've read before, but not to other people. Well, besides a couple people. All right. So the first one is called If a Menopausal Woman Dances in a Jungle and Nobody Films It. Oh, a child in Belize dances like a banana peel on a yellow afternoon. An old woman with a face like a banana peel performs the same dance in the middle of a riot. I open my laptop and hear a million voices speaking to me at once. Is this how Santa Claus feels when the world's murmuring desires continually interrupt his wordle? As the child dances, other children mirror his moves, left hand to the sky, right leg towards the disappearing ocean. When one of the dancing arms crashes through the screen, becoming a barking Dodge coin, another arm morphs into jazz. The old woman is thinking about the protests she got lost in as a teen, the way the air smelled of powdered cheese and flat beer, how once, in the middle of a crowd, she overheard a couple break up. Afterwards, the man and the woman had to stay together. The chanting protesters confined their bodies to the movement of the swarm. Now, all the children dance as if they were one child. A dog watching on an iPad in Tampa tries to mimic the moves, but looks more like a malfunctioning robot horse. A lawyer in Edgewood does every move one step behind with more booty. A baker in Belfast jerks along, his bell-covered hip scarf awkwardly bouncing off spandex leggings. Now, the orange kitchen in Belize is revealed to be the top of a skyscraper in Singapore. The old woman who claimed she was remembering the friends she made at the Selma bus boycott is not an old woman. A chihuahua in a salt and pepper wig, she stars in a streaming ad for squeezable cheese. Still, when Lizzo pops up, her skin shimmering like an inside-out ocean, the computer screen hiccups birds. I read a poem on my iPad and the pixels break into Cheez-Its. A banana peel dances. A banana peel is always dancing somewhere. The child opens his chest. If 20 other children fly out, he knows he's ready to begin. Are you the invisible song that was playing? To wear a blindfold in the algorithmic state, one must trust that the crowd is closer to a mosh pit than an ocean. One morning, your glass of orange juice is replaced by a beacon of sunlight. And from then on, the square of sadness you carry in your pocket feels heavier. When I was a data point, I posted to a forum a question about the effects of perimenopause, and when the answers came back, I trembled in their presence. My love of the internet was like my love of the city. In each, I wandered underground, smelling of pomegranates and hemorrhoid cream. Yesterday on the subway, I overheard a woman with a voice like a cartoon parrot complaining of her Macy's coworkers' purchase of a thong for clubbing. The picture showed just what it is, a sack for your dick and balls. So this next one, I was actually having trouble titling, and Douglas Rothschild helped me with the title for this one, from his hospital bed, which was amazing. Okay, so this is called Poetica Fondant. I baked a cake in the shape of a moon, and no one could tell what was a cake and what was the moon. When I cut it open, it tasted like overly sweetened watermelon tea and smelled like the shadow of the leaves on a lake. I loved it. But then the bloggers arrived complaining that my baking was bougie. So I crafted a cake in the shape of my face, It had curly hair, glasses, and an open mouth that could keep talking even when no one was listening. In my big marble cake nose, I hid my people's struggles, the escape from the pogroms and the years of overly salty chicken. I loved that cake too, but was ashamed to admit it. I had read that identity politics was just the cream filling of neoliberalism. So I baked a cake that was messy like New York. I cut it open and rode the subways inside, eating my way through dirty, glistening sidewalks like a hungry Frank O'Hara. But that was the year everyone claimed to be Frank O'Hara, even those numbskulls who hated modern art. So I baked a cake shaped like the internet. And when I cut it open, everyone who tasted it said it tasted just like the internet. And I kept eating it and eating it and eating it in a kind of durational performance until the cake itself was the internet. And I myself, the somewhat delicious crumbs. Click here to learn more. I asked ChatGPT to give me a metaphor for my childhood trauma, but it answered in a language only translatable by ghosts. When I instant messaged all the ghosts I knew, two of them were busy redecorating their goth Barbie core Airstream. One had gotten lost in a mega market's new walk-in fridge, and the other three had taken hallucinogenics made from rabbit poop and had yet to regain consciousness. So I opened my favorite coercive control expose message board. This time, instead of the usual blog links and inside jokes, I saw a video of myself, and on it, the scars from when I was 10 and the substitute teacher hit me with an open bag of Funyuns. The screen was suddenly full of scars, not only my scars, scars belonging to people I'd never met, and scars on the flesh of people I'd only met in the internet's speckled non-space. All the scars, all scars, wiggling scars, popping and locking scars. Right there in the redacted comments of our subreddit, a chorus line of boogieing scars cut the carpet into rugs. Years later, after I had gotten married, landed my dream job, bought a house, earned a title in my duck ping league, and learned to use the sous vide wand I'd been given at my retirement party, I found that scar again. I'd been examining my body in preparation for my annual dermatology appointment. And there it was. I'd almost forgotten about it. But when I saw it again, I was not surprised to see it sway. My sorrow is a billboard painted with clouds. When the mass shootings are broadcast live, the internet screams, "Look, my tears are made of beanie baby frogs, tears of baby seals clubbed with incel memes, tears of pre-masticated marshmallows, of popcorn chicken refusing to pop, of robot porcupines strutting to their jobs at the baby factory or hobnobbing with RIP flies." I try to believe this sorrow. In my room at night, I draw pictures of the internet. 1, the internet as a sunglasses wearing movie star hugging us all. 2, the internet as a house-sized cello played by a bow. 3, the internet as a movie whose subtitles are replaced by a transcript of eavesdropped chatter. In bed, I see the internet as a boat large enough to hold us all. On the moon, we feel each other's lungs with only our fingertips. Look, I say, here is the open mouth of the galaxy, and there we are inside it, typing or tapping or swiping away. In the morning when I wake, I realize I myself am the internet. I glance in the mirror and my face is an amalgam of every demographic, a map with cities crashing into each other like bumper cars, data nosediving like private planes. Just two more. Outrage fatigue. A songbird's idea of refusal quavered, gunking up reality with music. The sky adewed the end times with memories of future blood. My appetite or yours, hun, said no one to nothing. Misled by lopsided horse clouds, the window was declared the new expanse. Office parties smelling of last century drifted in and dispersed. Life became a series of toes, recalibrating the atmosphere through boredom and smoke. Still, fear battered the dust mites awake. What used to be my country raptured the horizon's teeth, a static option sprinkling emotions in the mix, hastening the return of reality is 89.3% dream. Okay, finally, how it started, how it's going. I was reading a blog, trying to find a recipe for a lentil stew. But the story about the writer's stepdaughter's missing slipper went on for so long that by the time I arrived at the ingredient list, the building our apartment is in had been sold and resold and sold again. And even worse, our kitchen had been replaced with a digital oven that turned all ingredients into different flavors of miniature muffins. Tofu piccata muffins, charcoal fondue muffins, hillbilly elegy muffins, death metal NFT muffins, raspberry Nepo baby marble dildo muffins. One day, I threw a muffin at the moon, and to my surprise, the moon threw a muffin back. I told everyone in my activist Slack feed that this was a new kind of radical action, made more potent by its engagement in celestial intersectionality. Soon, we were a whole movement of revolutionary bakers, a federation of militant muffin throwers designed to augment anti-capitalist baking with celestial praxis. Who could have known the muffins had other plans? Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. I can't wait for that new book. Next up is Soham Patel. Soham Patel is the author of 3 poetry collections, most recently All One in the End, Water, forthcoming from Delete Press in August 2023. I got to know Soham when we were both MFA students at the University of Pittsburgh, and she was a poet moonlighting as a guitarist in a rock band that sometimes played to packed bars. Her poems have the musician's attentiveness to the rhythms of bodies and atmospheres, to sound and beat and breath. Know that to be named after a breath is one thing that can keep the people breathing, she writes in Ever Really Hear It. With dazzling attention to detail and all the possibilities of remembering, Soham's work breathes, listens, thrums, fragments, and beckons across a bar or an ocean, an exit or a threshold. It's my great pleasure to welcome Soham Patel.
Thank you so much, Lauren. I forgot about that band, Gutter Glitter, we were called. So I'll read a few pages from the new book that's coming out in August. And they all have running titles. After rain, then cooling, so I leave the window open, while receipts from last week dry out to their soak. I write letters addressed to a punk house. I am so polluted with ritual, but only my wives can remind me. What corner of this world lets a number fall for the sake of servitude? What utility does the elbow have aside from fold and force? My mouth is not afraid of aging, but I bristle whiskers, and there is this instinct in children, a vocabulary learned. Beware, sweets will rot your teeth. Wrong body for this world is in twice concordance with overhearing slurs on us. The rain is more mudslide than soothing, and I can save no one. Where was it written, this land is promised to me? The deed chartered territory westward, so I hoe on. Blows become warning to animal approach. A herd thunder over crust, mire, and roots will rumble. So this new book that's coming out in August is, I annotated 2 chapbooks that Brenda Ejima published from Portable Press at Yo-Yo Labs. One came out in 2013 and All One in the End Water, and then New Weather Drafts came out a few years later. And so for this 3rd book, it's a bit of a conglomeration and new writing into those 2 projects. And this poem is all the lines that I took out of those 2 chapbooks. We can sing to assemble new unmoved empires. We can count pills fast as my pharmacist laughs. We can wake up better filled with dough than sorrow. We can extend the lunch hour to match a pollinator's pace. We can go live in an ashram, write about the country life, live. We can rummage in front of reference materials. We can take trains, but only when we travel. We can shout in the rotunda all night. We can cellar shelve ourselves underground. We can move over to pronounce wreckages with tongued consonants. We can be careful to transfer signals from one tongue to another. We can understand that the signals are equal to silk or sky. We can be this breath and this one and this one and this. We can make drawings of horizons meeting fields with watercolors. We can wave at a city by water, my heart. We can paint our faces so well. We can wait to see the new moon. We can protest, litter our victory, force it through the watering traffic. We can stop, dropped fire on lived on fields. We can learn to the oil co-execs in suits what to do new. We can shake a schoolhouse brick by brick. We can comfort and come and go like the weather. We can weaken and not just on the weekends. We can widen with riverbeds and dry, shift our shapes. We can say yes and yes, but then my glasses freeze by the window. In Pittsburgh, a church across the way is now a hookah bar. Quarter in the red snowlight like fire, I squint and see blue in the sky, apothecized our presence, and the day turns with slight warning. Elsewhere, ice on a lake breaks from the weight where a man stands. The road has a wet smell to it. Then the water freezes again. Soap and studs come into me through my pores in the bath. Always there has been an erosion of time and skin on the shorelines. Thief hours bored after midnight and men bus with me. They take their time like pilfering light. We stay awake while in line we stand with mufflers, jumpers, and windbreakers in which we wither, while another man sits like a lamp, leaning over a reading chair, about to twist into a nest. My brother would not say a word. That star under which he was born, the unknown yet holds us like a blanket, the one with unicorns. No set future sprayed in blue paint on the busway. That lady I love told me, son, I read your name and address and tried to answer your friend, to call after him. Both the lake and the plain are wires fused with blue. the forest and the mountain and the desert too. But where the bees will be now is new. Wind ends or just rests. My hand lifts to my own lips to make the calling louder. I remember every wing I am under as each gives me over to home. Ignition rings the water into waves blown through barrels of licked light that moves towards me now in my Vata constitution that's oscillating in I see south and shudder. Everything's surveyed now. And yet here I lament the end of the earth at the price of the state on a state paid and very nice machine the university provides for star wattage and their kin alike. I am lucky and also work hard, blah, 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 but also the danger within, as they say, when you have nothing to talk about, you talk about the weather. I don't keep coming back to trash in that Marie Kondo anti-archive kind of vein, throw away sparkless things, yet leave so many traces. Undistinguished, abhorrent really, and still I do like I do, keep on tour, reflect and turn like music played on a night before I take flight across an ocean again, this time also to introduce my chosen family to my family. Killed the family, killed the core, killed the mantle, the killed keep returning, killed nests drop and shape back up futures, plural, yes, like consciousness. And of course, the story is nobody is going to be okay. We do end, friend. And to paltry scanners looking for names here to confirm any goss for the biz, snore, fuck my poetics. May I, LOL, put that in the curriculum. Don't worry about it, is just artful and so important. These parts of a life built, eviscerated, and built again. We are all terrible somehow. No doubt I tossed some things out I should have kept, but did not want to carry the mess. My sister's name is Ira because the white nurses misunderstood my parents' pronunciation of Era, so spelled it incorrectly in her birth certificate. And she and her son curated lost playlists on Spotify a decade ago, some MIA songs, a lot of Beastie Boys, and one with the Cure's Boys Don't Cry on it. Jenny and Ravi's son and my grandmother have the same name, meaning mountain, crystal, clear of mind, and I am here singing songs of triumph for them. Then when a sudden downpour that our iPhone apps didn't forecast, we wet our feet flashing through new streams to the Cube Theater with umbrellas, jackets, a trash bag with a hole. Janine says it's like a poncho. We all have a version of a story we like to tell. Well, what happened is I remember snow melt cleaned dirty money off its grit, not unlike the cash-only fishmonger's bills she touched with blood and scales on her fingers before handing me back my counted out change. No, I won't be rolling that paper to snort any dust up through. Listen, it's my day off. I recognize the music playing here at Don Chignon's near the Bergen Street stop, the 3 train waiting for Brenda to regroup at home before receiving me. It's the Shins Phantom Limb. Alone, I acquire 2 orders of elote, then 1 house margarita, then just 1 more. But worse is I just got on an airplane. Today is the day of the climate strike. $6 plus 8 plus tip plus how deep's my carbon footprint for the cost of a magazine subscription. But now by the second round, I may be unoriginal. Once I found a shiny layered rock on Brighton Beach in the sand. All over, the darkness is real though, and oil fueled, the plane, not a boat. Youth activists gather from afar and I go to happy hour. What's an eco-poetics of flying echo like during the climate strike? Me, this evening, Friday, September 20th, 2019, I see a storefront called Kith, and remember I have to write a thank you to Divya, but like Jimmy, been so busy. If I'm not in conversation with the next generation and the ones preceding me in my communities about my day job, then what am I even doing to foster studied review? And now happy hour is over, and the last song, I feel it in my bones. 23, 80, 40, 10 plus 5 plus 1, 11, there's a tip, plus 29. At home, Brenda says the poem can save the climate crisis and plays Love is Simple by Akron Family. We are at Yo-Yo Labs in the backyard. We dance with Cleomes later that Saturday during the equinox. I hear unexpected echoes in the atmosphere. I remember driving through Wisco on poetry tour with Lauren and Lewis. We sang so many songs on the road, and I made a video on my phone. And at the book fest, Jojo said to me about monogamy, real estate, forever progeny change, and X wasn't taking interview questions when we were in the Korean War Memorial Park, where I cautioned under my ecosexuality as raindrops tore it down like a kiss. Did I kiss the Cleum without consent? When we were dancing, vine and petals embrace me. I will ask when I'm back. Thank you.
Thanks, Soham. That's another book I'm really excited to read when it comes out. Cecilia Woloch is next. Cecilia Woloch is the author of 6 collections of poems and a novel. Her honors include fellowships from the Fulbright Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, and CEC Arts Link International, among others, inclusion in the Best American Poetry Series and a Pushcart Prize. Her work has been published in translation in French, German, Polish, Bulgarian, Hungarian, Ukrainian, Hebrew, and Romanes. She collaborates regularly with musicians, dancers, visual artists, theater artists, and filmmakers. Born in Pennsylvania, raised in rural Kentucky, and based in Los Angeles, she travels the world as a writer, performer, and teacher. Most recently, she spent 2021 through 22 as a Fulbright Scholar at the University of Rzeszów in southern Poland. I first met Cecilia when I was in 2nd grade, and she started conducting after-school poetry workshops at my elementary school through California Poets in the Schools. And I continued to take them every year through the 6th grade. Recently, my mother asked me, and my parents are here actually on the Zoom. Recently, my mother asked me if I would have become a poet if it weren't for Cecilia. And though I cannot know for sure, it was Cecilia who first showed me that having a life as a poet is a possibility. And as my life as a poet is inextricably bound to Cecilia's work on the page also enacts a poetics of relation between children and parents, between siblings, between lovers, between people and places, between the present and the past, and even of the shifting lyric self as it grows, stretches, and reforms again. It's my great honor to welcome Cecilia Woloch.
Oh, Lauren, I feel like I don't even need to read after that. I'll just, that's really lovely. I still, every time I if you haven't read Lauren's latest book, it's one I've been recommending a lot. And then I look at that book and I read your work, and I look at your place on my bookshelves, and I picture that, 8-year-old, that 7-year-old who was just so focused and so serious. I mean, a lot of the kids I worked with were excited about poetry and they thought it was fun, but you could see in Lauren's eyes there was something really serious for her there. And at the risk of also embarrassing Joanna Fuhrman, I think, Joanna, you were about 15 or 16 when I met you. And you were in the workshop in Idlewild in the summer. And here was this young poet from New York who was so well read. I had never read Thomas Transtromer until Joanna bought Transtromer some translations of his poems, prose poems, into the workshop there. So it's wonderful to see both of you. It's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren, for inviting me and for putting this together. I'm going to read a handful of poems, mostly sort of newer. The first couple come from they've been published in a chapbook, but they actually come from a new manuscript that I will hope to get out someday. As Lauren said, I've spent a lot of time, not just the past year, but I've spent a lot of time in the borderlands of Southeast Poland, especially in the Carpathian Mountains, where my father's mother was born. And this borderlands region and the whole notion of the liminality of identity and geography and history has been an obsession of mine for a long time, and we now see it playing out. The city of Rzeszów, where I'm returning in about a week, is about 40 miles from the Ukrainian border. So we are sort of the center of the efforts to arm Ukraine and to welcome Ukrainian refugees. So I'm going to start with some poem called What Was Promised Me. It's a prose poem. What was promised me? Nothing. A ring and some salt, rice in the white shoes, music, a doll, the book my mother read to me over and over when I was a child. Tigers turning to butter, to milk. An amulet from a boy who carried a knife in his pocket too. Night. I was not promised dawn. Stars hooked to sky by my father's hands. Love like a tree I could climb to the top of and then jump down from, or swing from, or fly. Mercies so small I could hide each one inside a flower. Sharp white teeth. A clock made of pearls, each pearl an hour, and the hours numberless. The pink dress that disappeared, where did it go? And the tiny ballerina spinning and spinning inside a dome. A door that would open and close. No house, no home, but the story I've lived toward. Luck running out like a shimmer of wind. 2 buckets full of cold water, wood for a fire, and flame. So I first returned to this region in 1999, and I have returned again and again and tried to understand the history of what happened there. Timothy Snyder, the historian Timothy Snyder, calls this part of the world the Bloodlands because of all the war and genocide that's happened there. So this is a poem about one of my returns to that land, into that landscape. It's called Return. In the year of the poppy, year of the cornflower, year of the meadow of yarrow and buttercup, year of the thistle and ox-eye daisy, in the spring of the year of our Lord, of the train, the engine, the ticket, the map, of the landscape of leaf shadow, willow, white birch, blurring past in the smoke of the burning fields, in the blue mist of evening, the ringing of bells, ringing out for the living, the dead, of the last great war, which is one long war, of the ancient soldier come in his uniform to stand hopefully at the door of the house of no mirrors, swept of ash, in which I was a guest of the dark bread and rain, to ask, have the Germans already left? 60 years after the forests were flushed of the last of our enemies, last of the partisans of a holy republic of mud, of the blood mixed with earth, of the bones of itself, of which no one knows but the trees anymore, of which no one speaks but the child made of grass. Carpathia. Having rinsed off the soot and stink of the Polish train, having sung with a child, having eaten and laughed and wept, had my vodka with apple juice, my bread, having walked through the fields at dusk and into the forest and back again, meadows of buttercups, thistles with bristling heads, the first blue cornflowers of June. Having opened my arms to the sky falling back on itself in my dizziness, having taken the small purple berries that dropped from the wild bush into my palm, Siberian berries like tiny plums, with their sweet, bitter inkiness onto my tongue. Having failed and failed at love, having gone anyway, breath after breath, having trusted the world to be kind and stood in the doorway and listened for wolves and heard my own dead in the high grass whispering, beloved, beloved, beloved. I'm going to read a newer poem from 2022, new for me, when I was in Krakow with my friend, the poet Corinne Topal, who is also here with us today. It's called, because I don't know what else to call these things, Report from Krakow, Spring 2022. Today I saw behind glass a cigarette pouch made of human skin, iron shackles for two small wrists, a photograph of men smiling beneath gallows where corpses hung. I was able to walk today by touching one crutch lightly to the ground. The streets of Krakow slick with rain, later sunlight, then mist again. Today in the Rynek, a few dozen refugees stood near the statue of Mickiewicz, poet 3 different nations claim, some waving blue and yellow flags, some holding up photographs of their dead, some singing old songs of the motherland. A man came forward from their midst to address those who stood listening. When he spoke of the sky, we looked up at the sky. When he spoke of war, we felt the war near, the past coming back for us also, history still repeating itself. Today, the wind kept sweeping dying flowers away across the square. I clung to Corinne walking through the arcade. I had thought I'd lost her in the museum, searching for names of her kin on the walls. So she held my arm. I kissed her cheek. What we remember goes crooked sometimes. What we've forgotten leaves holes in us. Those who survived said meat in the soup. Those who'd wanted most a country of their own live in exile now. Today in Texas, a kid, 18 years old, shot 14 children dead, and then in turn was shot dead by police. News reached us in Krakow of children's bodies lying 3 deep on classroom floors. A girl who'd lain silent on top of her friend, having smeared herself with the blood of her friend, hoping that she herself might live, felt her friend's breathing stop. This is the world I have tried to love. Now make something beautiful, says the Lord. Also, I'll read just a couple of little prayers. Here's a poem for Warsaw. When I was first in Warsaw, it was 1994. And if there's anyone else here old enough to remember the Cold War, you know, the images that I had seen as a child of what the world looked like behind the Iron Curtain, when I went behind what had been the Iron Curtain, the world that I saw was actually remarkably similar to my nightmares. So this is for the city of Warsaw, where I return often. Night Song. Warsaw, rain. This was a city once of pain. It smelled of stale piss, cabbage soup. Old women sat on broken stoops, selling flowers, frozen clocks, tarnished trinkets, knitted socks. Warsaw blurred. In every tree, its only bird. This was a city ruined. I came, bedraggled stranger then, afraid of each gray shadow and its ghost, made of bitter wind and smoke. Warsaw hushed. The dead lie down, say, that's enough. And I'll finish with two little prayers, and I'm going to read them out of order. First, prayer for 2019. Forgive us that this is what's normal now. Children held prisoner at the border while the head of state poses for photographs with criminals and pimps. Half the world is more brutal than ever and half more fragile, and many are both. The sky is a different sky every day. One day too bitterly clear, and the next too warmly gray. One day a man is sentenced lightly for a lifetime of theft and fraud. One day a woman is sentenced to life behind bars for killing her rapist in self-defense. We're living between the breaths we take in gasps, between our fury and our despair. Forgive us for not knowing where to turn. A small girl dies in the arms of the state. A small boy stands at the door in the late afternoon, wanting someone to come out and play. And this is the last poem, prayer for 2018. Surely there was a river once, but there is no river here. Only a sound of drowning in the dark between the trees, the sound of wet, and only that. Surely there was a country that I called my country once, before the thief who would be king made other countries of us all, before the bright screens everywhere in which another country lives. But what is it anyway to live, to breathe, to act, to love, to eat? Surely there was a real earth, wild and green here, blossoming, land of milk and honey once, land of windswept plains and blood, then of shackles and of iron. And then the black smoke of its cities and the laying down of laws, under which some flourished, if you call that flourishing, and from which others would have fled had there been anywhere to flee. My country, which is cruel and which is beautiful and lost. Surely there were notes that made a song, a pledge of birds, and not a child in any cage, no man or woman in a ditch. Surely what we meant was to anoint some other god, one made of wind and starlight, pulsing, heart that matched the human heart. Surely that God watches us now, one eye in the river, one eye where the river was. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. It's such an honor to share this screen with you, Cecilia, and all of you. And who could have imagined that in 1990?
It's an honor to share the world with you, Lauren, and with you, Joanna, with all of you. Thank you.
I'm going to read a sequence that was published in the Brooklyn Rail a couple years ago, and then maybe I'll read like one short poem. It's called Requiem for Elementary Language Acquisition. And maybe I won't apologize for my very bad French pronunciation because that's essential to the poem. La poésie est une pipe, René Magritte. Once a person I loved gave me a bestiary, a book of animal portraits with text in 3 languages. And although we no longer talk, I still love this person, or rather the idea of this person, which is not an idea I invented, but an idea he gave me. In Brussels, I am shuffled about in a dream that is anxious and wary, filled with narrow brick streets that collide in baffling 3-part intersections and languages ricocheting off each other to meet somewhere beyond me. The language app instructs me to climb stairs of syntax patiently. Je suis une femme. Tu es un chat? C'est un homme. Nous ne parlons pas. Is there a language of loneliness? Is loneliness beyond language? Is loneliness all language? Le chat a les clés. From the window of my study, the black tile roof of the building across the street is a waffle dipped in dark chocolate and gabled steeply, dormer windows and sunroof and chimney jutting out at perfect 45-degree angles. I want to put it all in my mouth, but can't decide if I should lick or crunch or gulp without savoring. Did I say I am making my own bestiary? In it, all the animals are slowly purpling. The lizard's name is Fountain, but I call her Worry. Worry mouths a green gash pulsing. The animals are purpling because it is sunset, but I call it sunrise, and either way, they are awash in sky. Today, my anxiety has no face, but many ears that pop open like umbrellas. I want to escape their paranoid listening, all the coughs and murmurings they are busy misconstruing. So I take the metro to Les Musées Royaux des Beaux-Arts and glare at the works of the old masters. The old masters dangle, but the umbrellas collapse into bowling pins and repeatedly toppling and follow me in. They chase me to Bruegel's Fall of the Rebel Angels, and in the turmoil of gaped mouths and spleens unzipping, I see one demon angel from behind who is rising, not falling, on butterfly wings, her ass an armored fungus, legs withered to a single sheath. I imagine she is my mind and name her Mercy. I'm the sentence a latch catches, snagged on a semicolon, a misdirected parenthetical. Key, a year ago I was in love, and as a poet I should believe in repetition's possibility, but all I know is wind ripping through this narrow European street, casting trees into a frenzy of limbs flailing dangerously, and relaying a woman's screams in a language I cannot understand from somewhere I cannot see. But when I trudge downstairs, hear 3 massive doors slam, clank behind me, turn the bend in this street. There is just a row of stalled taxis and one passenger who leans out the window and interpellates me, though he is only asking directions, and in English, that's unraveling. I'm the sentence the latch catches, snags on a word that seems insignificant, a preposition, which is in fact all that can turn it. I turn the bend in a brick street and there is no woman there screaming, only wind that buffets sound around the city uselessly. A year ago I was in love and a year ago I was alone. That sentence rattles in my pocket. Melody in the key of we. As a poet, I know the inescapable pull of repetition, the yank of anxiety, mirrors exponentially multiplied, and each one always lying twice. I've read that trauma is a drag back to the scene of an endlessly recurring crime, but what is the condition of being caught in the syntax of a long past joy? Once a person I loved gave me a bestiary. I invented another in which all the animals are slowly purpling. We called the cat General Reynolds after the Civil War commander shot dead near the Cattery. General Reynolds II is flush with fat and sleep, rolled onto back, pawing air languidly. He dreams of the impish Gattino Raphael torn from a Sicilian wine label, who has antlers and angelic wings and a placid sort of smirk, like he's failed the audition for Bruegel's painting. On the page facing an antelope's all choked up in a Victorian button-up, her gloves at her throat, but no sounds sputter out. Even the most wondrous experiments collapse. The teal night elongates scars, mind ink brushed in cross-cut sores. Requiem for elementary language acquisition. Le chat n'est pas un homme. I got stuck in the pipe between together and with. Raw sewage pulses by my ears, popped pressure, tom-tom exhalations pounding. Get up and go, get up and go. What if I won't? There's a lash in the stopped lids of loneliness. Go out and get, go out and get. The exit straddling among and between, the entrance dangling the base of within. A woman sitting cross-legged on the back of a bar patio keeps glancing at me, her pink hair silvering. With her friends, she speaks a sinuous French, the grease of aghast and seen. Get up and greet, get up and greet. Even in English, how much time do I spend staring at people's feet? The distance between stumble and seize. Pipe wheezes, breakneck gutter sputter. If it spits me out, I'll fold, I'll crumble. Get up and leave, gone up and out, stuck in the pipe between only and none. A Magritte sky, so blue and feathery, is cut out above. I live in a box of mirrors, batting about under the gaze of my own eyes, watching from every side. Silvering hair falls past my shoulders in Botticelli curls, so I seem some fairy tale witch or queen whose beauty closes like a drawbridge when the outside strays too close to it. The beauty loneliness casts somersaults in brass. Even heaviness is nimble. Here in June, it is always afternoon. Heart flung from its cage to swing by a lamppost forth and fro. Beauty is just one more way to be alone among others. When the brass band clatters onto the square, a crowd tumbles out in a swoon of color. And I'm going to close with this short poem that's the last poem in my book that's coming out next year. And I wrote it for the book launch for Hannah Emerson's Kissing of Kissing. And it starts with an epigraph from that book. Please love poets. We are the first autistics. Love this secret. No one knows it. And that's Hannah Emerson from Becoming Mud. No one knows it. Love this secret. The beginning of window is mud. The beginning of awe is tangent. Mud awes the countertop, lined with sprigs of dailiness. As fork kisses tongue, as gulp nurses secret, the arc muddy as the ocean licking its still. We were mud before dust. We were sunlight before sentence sensed along the ridge. We are fracture to egg. We are tin to periwinkle. All our secrets gather in maps of bird songs loved, muddying, trill. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Cecilia, Joanna, and Soham. Thanks, Anselm, so much for inviting me and everybody at the Brooklyn Rail.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, Cecilia and Joanna and Soham. And thanks everybody for being here. So why don't we throw the mics open so everyone can say hello and goodbye and move on into the rest of the day or night, wherever you might be.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you so much. That was
so
amazing.
much.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Thanks, everyone.
Yay.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you, everyone. It was
Wonderful to be with you all.
amazing readings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Anselm.
Thank you, Lauren.